It is time, everyone. We are back for the latest episode of Decoding Dune, which is where I read through the Dune trilogy, the original Dune book, then Dune Messiah and Children of Dune. Do the original Dune trilogy here, which is what the movies are being based off right now that they're cranking out. And we do weekly episodes as we go through. We are currently up to I think this is if it's either chapter 6 or chapter 7, I forget. They don't have chapter numbers on them, and I forget when I sit down to do these. But anyway, the title will tell you which chapter it is. Looks like we are getting an introduction right away from the princess in an analysis of the Arrakeen crisis, talking about the Lady Jessica and Arrakis and the Bene Gesserit system of basically instilling legends throughout the territories to work towards the end that they have contrived or that they have foreseen. It says here the wisdom of seeding the known universe with a prophecy pattern for the protection of the personnel has long been appreciated, but this is the extreme end of this breeding program and preparing things for the future. And it says here the prophetic legends that had grown on Arrakis um, basically grew to extreme levels. And it says here it is generally considered um, by today's standards that the Lady Jessica's abilities were grossly underestimated. So it's a very, interesting introduction into more information about the Bene Gesserit. So we're getting more world building here and more layering of everything so that we know understand what's going to be coming down the pipeline deeper in. So we start off this chapter with Lady Jessica and her point of view. Um, They've basically just arrived in the Arrakeen Great Hall, and all the cargo is just being delivered. So there's just stuff everywhere, boxes everywhere. She's sort of taking it all in and feeling very melancholy and kind of overwhelmed with everything. Um, Thinking about things that had to have been shipped here at great cost because they don't grow natively on the planet. And just this used to be the government mansion essentially during the days of the old empire, and there's just opulence all over the place. Um, but nowadays it's much different. And she's sort of sitting here looking at items, and she pulls out a couple of things from the boxes, and she's just reflecting on things, and then she looks up to the sky through the window, and the sky looks very different. And she essentially says here, it's much darker than the warm blue of her home planet. A sense of home sickness just sort of racks through her at this point, and she thinks to herself, you know, Caladan is just so far away now, like we're just completely here. And then she hears Duke Leto's voice, and this first description of him as she turns around and sees him coming into the room, and the way she describes this man is incredibly interesting because of the fact that when she's done describing everything, a sudden fear of him hits her, and she's like, he's become such a calculating individual ever since he decided to undertake the command of the emperor because he has to be. And she sees that change in him, and she feels suddenly like there's something in him that I need to be afraid of because he's no longer the warm, caring person that he was before. Now he is cold efficiency because if he doesn't, um, well, he doesn't know that, but um, yeah. Oh, we're switching to his POV. Um, okay. A description of her face from his point of view. She's not actually his wife, right? Lady Jessica. She's she's been a Jesuit. Well, the way it's described here, I don't remember this, and this is something I'm questioning for those of you who might know more about the books than me. He remembers the day that the lay sisters at the school. Wait, hang on. I read that wrong. He remembered that the lay sisters at the school had called her skinny, so his buyers had told him. Um, so did he buy her? Did he buy her first and bring her into the house, and then she became his concubine? I don't remember that detail. It's crazy how different cultures work, man. It's very, very interesting. Oh. Okay, we also get this. Here's this moment where she's uncovered a painting of his father, and she's like, where he asks her where she was going to hang that, and she's talking about in here, and he's like, no. And the way it's described here, the word rang flat and final, telling her she could use trickery to persuade, but open argument was useless. And she tries anyway, and he's like, the answer remains no. I indulge you shamefully in most things, but not in this. Oh, this is funny. So they're having a little bit of a spat here, and he's definitely treating her like, you know, a servant, so to speak. You may resume your custom of dining in your rooms whenever possible. I shall expect you at your proper position only on formal occasions. Thank you, my lord. Don't go all court and formal on me. He's like, be thankful that I never married you, my dear. That it'd be your duty to join me at the table for every meal. He's like, she literally looks at him and she's like, you anticipated this disagreement. He's like, my love, I think also of your comfort and all of these things. Trust me, I've got it covered. Relax. Oh, he suggests her to keep the head housekeeper, the shout out Mapes, who is she's a Fremen. Oh, it says here, Duncan's report says everybody's convinced that the lady really wants to serve, specifically, she wants to serve Lady Jessica. Remember, this goes back to that opening section of the chapter where the seeding of prophecies. And this is something, especially in the film. I haven't read the books in so long. I don't remember how strongly it's portrayed here in the book. But I know in the film versions and the TV show versions and everything else, it's always um, the Bene Gesserit are manipulative, completely manipulative, and Jessica uses that to her advantage with Paul, especially with the Fremen. Like she totally leverages that superstition. So there's a moment here as they're ending their conversation. She's thinking to herself, he's not going to be persuaded against doing everything he can to keep us safe, and I can't use my tricks on him. So she then changes the subject. She's like, "What time do you want dinner?" And he thinks to himself, that's not what she was actually going to say. Um, and he wishes to himself, "Ah, my Jessica, would that we were somewhere else, anywhere away from this terrible place, alone, the two of us, without a care." So there is a part deep down in the Duke that wishes what we all wish for, a different life. The responsibilities that surround us dictate what we can and can't do. And it's a reality that we all have to accept. So the Duke leaves the room, and Jessica's not very happy about the situation, and she hears this voice. It says, thin and stringy, coming from behind her. What are your orders, Nobleborn? And as she stares down, she finds this knobby, gray-haired woman in the shapeless sack dress of bondsman brown. Ha 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 ha. The eyes, that wash of deepest, darkest blue without any white. I am the shut-out Mapes, Nobleborn. What are your orders? She reminds her that she's not Nobleborn, she's just the bound concubine of the Duke. Ooh. So this is an interesting thing. So we see Jessica starting to leverage her knowledge. She's like, I recognize the title you use for, shout out. Um, it's a very ancient word. And Mapes replies, ah, you know the ancient tongues then. And Jessica replies, ah, tongues are the Bene Gesserit's first learning. I knew the Batoni Jib and the Chagobsa. And Mapes nodded and says, ah, just as the legends say. And she thinks to herself, why do I play this sham? So in the beginning, before she begins to believe, she's just going along with this because it's her duty, essentially. Mm. And then she proceeds to speak in the Chekhov's tongue to Mapes, who then darts backwards, um, Jessica's totally playing this up. I know many things. I know that you have borne children, you have lost loved ones, blah, 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 blah. This is manipulation of poor people who live by superstition. It's a intense story what comes. Oh, Mapes presents her with the fabled crysknife of Arrakis, the blade that had never been taken off the planet and was known only by rumor and wild gossip. Oh, and Mapes asks her if she knows its meaning. She replies slowly, "It's a maker." And Mapes wails, a sound of both grief and elation. She realizes that that word, maker, means something special to Mapes, but she doesn't know what it is yet. And Mapes, so this part of the conversation where Mapes looks at her and she's like, um, when you've lived with prophecy for your whole life, like I have, the moment that you meet the prophecy is a shocking one. So forgive everything and the manner of which I'm speaking to you and everything else because I'm just overwhelmed right now. It's very interesting. Jessica thinking back about the prophecy, the Sharia and all the Panoplia Propheticus and the Bene Gesserit of the Missionaria Protectiva dropping here centuries ago with the protective legends implanted in these people against the day of a Bene Gesserit's needs. So one of the coolest things about the Bene Gesserit is looking at how they've they can see into the future to some degree, and they've used that to plan far, 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 far ahead. And it's not infinite, they're not infallible either, but they look at. I think it's described in the early chapters. I remember quickly she's talking about, all of the Bene Gesserit can see forward to a certain point, but there's a point that they can't go beyond. And that's what they need the Kwisatz Haderach for, is to go beyond that point. And so this whole breeding program and all these prophecies and everything else are about guiding humanity to that point. Hmm. Oh, this is an interesting detail about the knife. As Mapes gives it to her, it says, "More than a week away from your flesh, and it begins to disintegrate." Oh no, hang on. This is an unfixed blade. That's why. A tooth of Shai-Hulud for as long as you live. This is very interesting. So she's using more knowledge about. Well, some of it seems like it seems like Jessica is relying a little bit on instinct here. Mapes, you've sheathed the blade unblooded, and with a gasp, Mapes is like, "Take the water of my life. I'm so sorry that I messed up the cultures and the customs." Um, Commercial time, everyone. Huge shout out to the Guild Champions, who are our highest tiered membership here on YouTube. We've got Bubbleonia, Ancient Entity, Crazy's Relative, Remedy. Thanks so much for your support here on the channel. And of course, to all of our members who help keep me full time here on YouTube. Thanks so much for your support, for being here, for checking in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon, super chat any live streams or premieres you see, super thanks any video uploads you see. Don't forget YouTube Shorts in that category as well. And hopefully, we'll see you in the next live stream. Don't forget the Discord. Links are down below. Let's get back to the video. Ooh, another interesting note. So she draws the point across Mapes' above her left breast to take the blood, but it says there was a thick welling of blood that stopped almost immediately, and she wonders to herself, is that ultra-fast coagulation a moisture-conserving mutation? And then Mapes, is like, "You are the one. The thing must take its course. The unclean who have never seen a christenate may not leave Arrakis alive." Oh, there's so much crazy stuff here. This is a really good info dump chapter. The coming of the Reverend Mother to free you. But I'm not a Reverend Mother, thinks Jessica to herself. Oh, and then she thinks about the great. They must have planted the Great Mother here in this hideous place. So this chapter ends in a complete it's an interesting paragraph here, but basically, Jessica's got all these thoughts rushing through her head as she's looking around things and instructing Mapes to go hang that painting of the Duke's father in the dining hall. Um, but Jessica says she could feels that something's off about the place, and as she walks off, Mapes pauses in her reflection and cleaning, and she looks at the lady as she's wandering away and says, "She's the one, all right. Poor thing." Um, so a very interesting world building chapter here in terms of giving us more information about Arrakis, the cultures, the customs, the plans of the Bene Gesserit, planting people here centuries ago to guide viewpoints and manipulate people. The relationship between the Duke and Lady Jessica. Did he buy her? I haven't looked online. I don't know anything about that. But that phrase is something that I picked up on. That his that was his buyers said she was skinny. So love to hear more about what people know about that part of the chapter. Um, but so far, you can see that the deep love for these two have for each other, even though they're obviously stressed right now, and dealing with that stress in different ways. Especially because she knows what's coming and he doesn't. And yeah, love to hear your thoughts. Drop them down below. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. See you on the next episode next week.